Welcome back to Alien Watchers, where humanity's journey into the stars takes an unexpected turn. After winning the Great Galactic Race, Earth is no longer a forgotten planet in the far corners of the universe. But with that victory comes new challenges, as the galaxy's most powerful factions turn their attention toward humanity. Now, Liam Foster and the crew of Striker 7 must navigate a race that's not only about speed, but survival. The stakes are higher than ever, and the real battle has just begun. After the magnificent victory in the Great Galactic Race, Earth, a planet once considered backward and insignificant in the eyes of the vast civilizations of the universe, became the center of attention. For centuries, humanity had been seen as primitive, isolated, and lacking the advanced technologies of the other species. But now everything had changed. The story of Liam Foster and the crew of Striker 7 spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Their triumph over powerful alien forces sent shockwaves through the cosmos, proving that humans were not to be underestimated. The victory was not only a personal achievement, but a symbol of humanity's potential in the grand scheme of the universe. In the blink of an eye, Earth was no longer a quiet, forgotten corner of space. It had become a focal point for every advanced civilization across the galaxy. Rumors, gossip, and whispers echoed through the corridors of galactic governments, and every species now had their eyes on Earth, eager to understand the true strength of the humans who had defied the odds. But as the celebration began to settle, Liam and his crew realized that the attention they were receiving wasn't all positive. Among the stars, some factions were not cheering for humanity's success. Some viewed the humans' rapid rise with suspicion and hostility. The news reached the ears of the High Galactic Council, the most powerful governing body in the galaxy. They were intrigued and somewhat threatened by humanity's sudden emergence. The High Galactic Council, which ruled over countless systems, decided to test the true might of humanity. They declared a new race, this time a race with even higher stakes. This wasn't just about speed. It wasn't simply a contest of who could cross the finish line first. The prize was something far more significant: the core of energy, an incredibly rare and powerful artifact that could provide unimaginable power to its wielder. The core was coveted by the most powerful factions in the galaxy, and it was believed to hold the key to shaping the future of any civilization. Liam knew what this meant. They had earned their place in the galaxy, but now the stakes were higher than ever. It wasn't just about winning. It was about proving humanity's worth in a galaxy full of ancient, mysterious, and often hostile species. "Looks like the real battle is just beginning," Liam muttered as he stared out into the vast expanse of space. The team had barely caught their breath from the first race, and now they were being thrust into another, even more dangerous challenge. The crew gathered together on the bridge of Striker 7, the hum of the ship's engines filling the air. It had been a whirlwind of repairs and upgrades, but now the real work was beginning. "Everyone ready?" Liam asked, his voice steady but filled with resolve. His crew nodded in unison. They had trained for years, and though they had triumphed before, they knew this time would be different. The pressure was immense, and the odds stacked against them were growing higher with each passing moment. The new race course stretched out before them, filled with unknown dangers. Fields of asteroid belts, abandoned battlefields from ancient wars, and volatile regions of space where gravity itself seemed to warp and twist. But the biggest challenge of all was the fleet of powerful alien racers they would be facing. Vrock Callan, the massive and imposing Naira warrior, was no stranger to victory. His warship, the Annihilator, was a fortress of destruction, capable of crushing anything in its path. His species was known for their indestructible exoskeletons, and Vrock himself had become a legend in the galaxy for his unmatched combat prowess. If anyone could match humanity's drive, it was Vrock. Then there was Jex Zephron, the brilliant Arcturan pilot. Her ship, Vaporium 9, was as sleek and precise as her movements. Jex was known for her ability to calculate and predict every trajectory with perfect accuracy. The Arcturans were one of the oldest and most intelligent races in the galaxy, and Jex's reputation as an unrivaled pilot was solidified in every race she entered. But today, her eyes were set on Liam. She was determined to prove that humans could not win again. Shurtok from Zafar was another formidable adversary. His species had an unnerving ability to phase in and out of visibility, using this skill to navigate the most hazardous parts of space. Chertok's Phase Strider was a ship unlike any other, capable of manipulating the very fabric of space-time, allowing it to phase through solid objects and vanish from sight in an instant. These were just a few of the competitors that Liam and his team would face in this new race, a race for the core of energy. But Liam wasn't intimidated. He knew that this race would require more than just speed. It would require strategy, resilience, and the courage to face the unknown. The countdown began. 5 minutes to launch. All systems are go, Ava, the ship's chief engineer, reported. The crew had been working tirelessly on upgrading the Striker 7, adding new stealth technology, improved shields, and weapons that could compete with the most advanced alien tech in the galaxy. Liam clenched his fists around the control panel, his mind racing through every possible scenario. This time, the race was not just about humanity's place in the galaxy, it was about survival. "Ready, team?" Liam asked, his voice steady but filled with anticipation. The crew responded with a unified cheer. "We win this, not just for us," Liam said, his voice sharp with resolve. "We win it for everyone back home on Earth." The Striker 7 surged forward into the unknown, its engines humming with power, as Liam Foster and his crew prepared for the biggest challenge of their lives. The first race had put humanity on the map. Now, the High Galactic Council was watching, and this new race, the one for the core of energy, was going to test everything they had. The crew had barely finished celebrating their last victory when the call came. It wasn't just a race. It was an opportunity to prove that humanity belonged in the galaxy's elite circles. Winning this would not only secure Earth's place in galactic history, but also put humanity in the crosshairs of some of the most powerful and dangerous factions in the universe. The prize was unparalleled. A core of energy that could fuel entire planets, a force that could shift the balance of power. But with this immense opportunity came an equally immense challenge. Liam knew their first victory had been an accident of sorts. The odds had been stacked against them, but they had made it through by sheer determination and grit. Now, however, there was no room for mistakes. The galaxy's most elite racers were prepared, and they weren't just racing for glory. They were racing for the ultimate power. The first obstacle came even before they could leave the planet's orbit. The race course was designed to be a gauntlet, a brutal test of endurance, skill, and strategy. It was littered with dangerous space debris, remnants of old battles, and treacherous gravitational anomalies. But the true dangers would lie in the competitors themselves, alien species with abilities that humanity had never faced before. "Are we ready for this?" Ava asked, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension as she monitored the final systems check. Liam nodded, though a pit of anxiety had settled in his stomach. "We have no choice but to be ready. Let's give them everything we've got." The countdown to launch began. 5 minutes to go. Liam looked out at the stars through the viewports, his mind briefly wandering to Earth, the planet they had just started to represent on a galactic scale. He felt a deep sense of pride and responsibility. A win in this race would change everything for humanity, but it would also bring Earth into the heart of galactic politics and power struggles. As the countdown continued, the crew worked in perfect harmony, preparing the ship and the systems for what was ahead. The last time they raced, they were unprepared, with barely enough time to make adjustments. This time, however, they were well prepared, having spent weeks modifying the ship's engines and defenses. Every upgrade had been necessary for the upcoming race, from the improved thrusters to the new cloaking device that could hide them from enemy ships. The air on the ship was thick with focus and tension, but as the countdown hit the final seconds, there was no turning back. 3, 2, 1, go! The Striker 7 shot forward, the engines roaring to life with an explosive burst of power, pushing the crew back into their seats. The race was on. But as the ship accelerated into the void of space, Liam felt a strange sense of foreboding. This race wasn't like the last one. The stakes were higher, the risks greater, and the enemies more dangerous. The Striker 7 streaked through space, weaving through fields of asteroid debris and passing ancient wrecks of ships that had once been part of failed galactic expeditions. Up ahead, the first challenge of the course loomed, a dense asteroid field. These massive chunks of rock, some as large as mountains, were scattered across the route, and navigating through them would require precision, speed, and skill. But the real danger lay in the other competitors. Vrock Kellen's warship Annihilator was already in the lead, its massive form cutting through space like a juggernaut. The Naira warrior, a towering figure clad in armor tougher than any material known to humanity, had no need to weave through the asteroids. He plowed through them, his ship's ion cannons clearing a path in front of him. Every move he made was calculated to strike fear into his opponents. Jex Zephron, the Arcturan pilot, wasn't far behind. Her ship, Vaporium 9, glided with eerie grace through the asteroid field, its sleek design and advanced quantum stabilizers allowing her to maneuver with incredible precision. Her white eyes flickered with intensity as she calculated every angle, her ship responding with perfect agility. She was known for her precise handling of obstacles like this. Nothing ever seemed to slow her down. Liam's fingers flew over the control panel, carefully adjusting the ship's trajectory to avoid the asteroid clusters. They were closing in fast, and the pressure was mounting. "Steady, Captain," Ava called out, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "We've got this." But just as Liam was about to breathe a sigh of relief, something unexpected happened. A dark blur passed by his peripheral vision. It was Shertock's ship, Phase Strider, flickering in and out of existence, phasing between dimensions. For a brief moment, Shertock's ship was intangible, passing straight through a massive asteroid, then it reappeared right in front of Liam's path. Liam cursed under his breath and swerved the Striker 7 to the side, narrowly avoiding a collision. Shertock was always unpredictable, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. The Phase Strider could slip in and out of reality, using the distortions of space-time to gain an advantage. Liam couldn't risk being caught by that ship. "We need to keep up," Liam said, his voice low but firm. "Ava, deploy the cloaking device. Let's throw them off our trail." The ship's systems hummed as Ava activated the cloaking device, momentarily making the Striker 7 invisible to the enemy's sensors. It was a risky move, one that could drain their energy reserves faster than they had anticipated, but they had no choice. The Phase Strider had just made a dangerous move, and Liam couldn't afford to let it happen again. Ahead, the Annihilator shot past the debris, its heavy cannons firing bursts of energy at the surrounding asteroids, clearing the path ahead. Vrock's laughter echoed through the comms, a deep guttural sound that sent shivers down Liam's spine. "You'll need more than a cloaking device to stop me, human." Vrock's voice boomed as his ship tore through the asteroid field. Liam gritted his teeth, pushing the Striker 7 harder, focusing on the path ahead. He knew they couldn't win just by keeping up. They would have to outsmart their opponents, take risks when necessary, and use everything they had learned from the first race to their advantage. The final stretch of the asteroid field loomed ahead, and the pressure was intensifying. The Striker 7 had to keep moving, navigating not just through the physical obstacles, but also through the treacherous tactics of their competitors. Liam's thoughts raced as he calculated their next move. The race was far from over. The real test had only just begun. The Striker 7 rocketed through the asteroid field, its engines thrumming with power as Liam focused all his attention on navigating the chaotic debris that filled the void of space. The ship shook with each dodge, every sharp turn sending vibrations through the hull. The asteroid field ahead was no ordinary obstacle. This was the first true test of the race, a deadly labyrinth that could tear apart the unprepared. Behind them, Vrock Kellen's Annihilator plowed through the asteroid field with brutal force. The Naira warrior seemed to care little for the obstacles around him, relying on the sheer mass of his warship to crush anything in his path. It was a terrifying sight, the warship's massive cannons firing at incoming asteroids, blasting them into oblivion. Jex Zephron wasn't far behind, though. Her Vaporium 9 danced through the asteroids like a silver streak, her movements precise and calculated. Jex's ship was designed for such challenges, speed and agility that made even the most difficult maneuvers look effortless. She was ahead, but not by much. Liam's heart pounded as his hands moved over the controls with expert precision. Striker 7 wasn't as nimble as Vaporium 9, nor as powerful as Annihilator, but it was fast enough and agile when it needed to be. The upgrades they had made were proving themselves, but there was still no room for mistakes. Keep steady, Liam muttered to himself, watching as an asteroid the size of a small moon barreled toward them. He swerved sharply, the Striker 7 moving like a predator in the void, narrowly missing the massive rock. The sudden shift caused the ship to lurch, throwing him momentarily off balance, but he gritted his teeth and quickly corrected. Almost there, Ava said from behind him. She was monitoring the ship's systems, ensuring the shields were holding and that their cloaking device was ready for use if necessary. But just as Liam thought they had cleared the worst of the field, the next challenge appeared. Just ahead was a huge, moving cluster of broken ships. The remains of ancient space battles scattered across space, left to drift aimlessly. These ships weren't just debris, they were active obstacles. Their remnants had long since been abandoned, but their damaged, unstable wreckage was now part of the racecourse. Jex's voice crackled over the comms, a mocking tone in her words. "I hope you don't plan to use that fancy cloaking device, Liam. You'll need more than stealth to survive the real obstacles." Liam didn't respond to her taunt. He focused on the task at hand. Striker 7 wasn't just facing the dangers of space itself. It was now having to navigate a graveyard of wrecked ships, pieces of destroyed warships from long-forgotten conflicts. The wreckage was floating with disturbing randomness, and if any of them collided with even a small section, their race would be over. "Hold tight," Liam shouted, adjusting the ship's trajectory. With a sharp turn, he veered the Striker 7 toward a narrow gap between two hulking fragments of shipwrecks. He could hear the hum of the engines as they pushed forward, the ship's systems working at full capacity to avoid the larger wrecks and navigate through the narrow corridors of debris. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the ship. The sound was deafening even through the comms, and the Striker 7 lurched violently to the right. A piece of wreckage, unnoticed in the chaos, had collided with their shield, sending a shockwave through the ship. The alarms blared in response, and Liam gripped the controls tighter, trying to stabilize the ship. "We're taking damage," Ava shouted from the engineering bay. "Shields at 75%. We can't afford many more hits like that." Liam didn't need to hear that again. His mind was already racing, trying to make sense of what was happening. Jex had pulled ahead slightly, but Vrock wasn't far behind either. They were all playing for the same prize, and every mistake, every misstep, could cost them everything. The wreckage ahead grew thicker, and now on top of the debris, there were mines, an additional layer of danger placed in the race course. Whoever had designed this course didn't just want a race, they wanted to see who could survive. "Mines!" Ava shouted as one of them detonated near their port side. The explosion sent a shockwave through the Striker 7, shaking the entire vessel. Liam quickly adjusted the flight path to avoid further damage. "Ava, can we repair the shields?" "We're going to need time. We can't make major repairs in flight." Ava's voice was tense, but she was keeping calm under pressure. Liam's jaw tightened. He didn't have time for repairs. They needed to finish the race. Ahead, Vrock's Annihilator fired a massive burst from its ion cannon, like clearing a path through the wreckage and destroying a large cluster of debris. Liam could feel the shockwave from the blast as it sent pieces of the destroyed ships flying toward them. The asteroids that had once been easy to dodge now seemed to multiply, and the wreckage was starting to resemble a deadly maze. "Stay focused," Liam muttered to himself. "Just stay focused." He leaned forward, his fingers dancing across the control panel as he fought to keep the Striker 7 steady. The remaining minefield was ahead. A single wrong move could destroy everything they had worked for. And then, as if the course wasn't treacherous enough, an unexpected distortion rippled across the space ahead. The gravitational anomalies had activated. Space itself seemed to warp, the fabric of reality bending in unpredictable ways. A massive rift opened up, and the ship's sensors went haywire, showing multiple paths through the rift, none of them fully clear. Liam's heart raced. He couldn't afford to miss this. If he could navigate the rift, it might give them a shortcut to the next leg of the race. But it was a gamble. "Buckle in, everyone," Liam shouted as he steered the Striker 7 toward the anomaly. The ship groaned under the strain of the warp, the engines fighting against the distortion in space-time. For a brief moment, everything went silent. The rift engulfed them, and the ship seemed to be torn apart by the force of the space-time tear. Then, as suddenly as it began, the ship emerged on the other side, miraculously intact. The path ahead was clear, but the damage to the ship was evident. Their shields were down to 50%, and their systems were strained from the warp. Still, they had made it through. Behind them, the other competitors were still navigating the wreckage field. Jex was close, but she hadn't taken the risk of entering the rift. Vrock, however, wasn't far behind, his annihilator charging forward, more dangerous than ever. The race was far from over. There was still a long way to go, and the real dangers were just beginning. With the rift behind them, Liam knew that this was only the first of many obstacles they would have to overcome. "Let's finish this," Liam said, his voice filled with determination as he pushed the Striker 7 forward, back into the fray. The Striker 7 tore through the void, its engines roaring as Liam Foster's grip tightened on the control panel. The crew had survived the asteroid fields and the deadly minefields, but they were far from safe. Ahead lay the next challenge, a region of space known for its brutal gravitational anomalies and deadly weaponized technology. Liam could feel the weight of every decision as he pushed the ship to its limits. The race for the core of energy was a battle for survival now. Each step they took, every move, was scrutinized by their competitors and the galaxy itself. The Striker 7 had been upgraded to handle the dangers ahead, but the threat wasn't just from the obstacles in space. The true dangers were their opponents, ruthless and determined to do whatever it took to win. The first sign of trouble appeared in the form of a high-pitched whine, echoing from the ship's sensors. Ava, the ship's chief engineer, immediately reported, "Captain, we've got incoming fire. I'm picking up energy signatures. Vrock's warship, Annihilator, is locking on with ion cannons." Liam's stomach dropped. Vrock Callan, the Naira warrior with an insatiable thirst for battle, was known for his brutal combat tactics. He didn't fight fair, he fought to win, no matter the cost. The Annihilator, with its advanced weapons and impenetrable armor, was an almost unstoppable force. It wasn't just a warship, it was a tool of terror. "Evasive maneuvers," Liam ordered, his voice sharp. "Ava, get the shields up. We can't afford to take any hits." "Shields are at full power, Captain," Ava replied, "but we can't hold them forever. We need to outrun him." Liam nodded grimly. He knew that outrunning Annihilator would be impossible unless they could shake Vrock's targeting systems. His mind raced as he assessed the situation. The Striker 7 was fast, but it wasn't built for brute force like Vrock's ship. They had speed and agility on their side, but it wouldn't matter if they couldn't outmaneuver Vrock's firepower. "Deploy the decoy drones," Liam said. "We'll create a distraction and throw off his aim." The ship's system hummed as small drones shot off from the Striker 7, scattering in every direction. The drones emitted heat signatures and electronic pulses designed to confuse the enemy's targeting systems. For a moment, it seemed to work. Vrock's Annihilator fired a powerful ion blast at one of the drones, causing a massive explosion. But just as Liam hoped the decoy would buy them enough time, the Annihilator turned its attention back to the Striker 7, realigning its weapons. "His targeting systems are recalibrating," Ava warned. "He's adjusting to our strategy." Liam didn't have time to think. Vrock was closing in, and there was no more room to maneuver. If they didn't act fast, the Striker 7 would be nothing more than a smoldering wreck in the void. "Hang on!" Liam shouted as he slammed the throttle forward. With a sudden burst of speed, he veered the ship into a narrow space between two massive asteroid fields. The Striker 7 dove between them, cutting through the dense asteroid belt with an agility that only humans could achieve. Behind them, Vrock's Annihilator was forced to slow down to avoid colliding with the massive asteroids, but it was still firing relentlessly. The ship's hull shuddered as another blast from Vrock's ship struck their shields, sending sparks flying through the cockpit. Liam's hands gripped the controls tighter as he fought to keep the Striker 7 steady. The shield's power was waning with each hit. "We can't take much more of this," Ava called out, panic creeping into her voice. "If we don't break free soon, we'll be sitting ducks." Liam's mind raced, the urgency of the situation weighing on him. They had to make it to the next sector of the race course, the one with the high gravitational anomalies, before Vrock caught up with them. He needed to buy them some time, but how? Suddenly, an idea struck him. "Ava, initiate the gravity wells. We're going to use the anomalies to our advantage." "Are you sure about this?" Ava asked, clearly skeptical. The gravity wells are unstable. If we don't time it right, we could end up in a black hole. Liam's eyes narrowed with determination. We don't have a choice. Do it now. Ava hesitated for a moment, then keyed in the command. The Striker 7 systems began to hum as the gravity wells activated, pulling them toward a region of space where gravitational forces could bend light and warp time. The ship was pulled ever so slightly as they sped toward the anomaly. Behind them, Vrock's ship continued to pursue relentlessly, but as the Striker 7 hurtled toward the gravity well, the entire ship shuddered and jerked as it entered the field. Time seemed to slow as the ship fought to stay on course. The sensors flickered and went haywire, warning them of the dangers ahead. But just as Liam hoped, Vrock's ship, too large and unwieldy, was drawn into the gravity well's influence. The massive annihilator seemed to stagger, its path disrupted as the gravity fields bent the space around it. With their advantage of speed, the Striker 7 narrowly avoided the worst of the gravitational pull, pushing forward at a high velocity. But Vrock's ship wasn't so lucky. The Annihilator was caught in the turbulence of the anomaly, forced to slow down and fight against the powerful gravitational force pulling it in. Liam's eyes locked onto the screens ahead. There was no time to celebrate yet. They had gained some ground, but they weren't out of danger yet. The racecourse had become more than just a path through space. It was now a battlefield, and the weapons being deployed were deadly. We've shaken him off for now, Ava said, breathing a sigh of relief. But we need to stay ahead. Liam nodded grimly, his mind already focused on the next obstacle. This race was far from over. They had made it through one of the most dangerous parts of the course. But ahead lay an even deadlier challenge, the weapons zone. Their rival racers would deploy every weapon at their disposal, mines, energy pulses, even energy barriers designed to trap their enemies. We're just getting started, Liam said, his eyes flicking between the screen and the stars ahead. The real race is about to begin. The Striker 7 was shaking under the strain of its high-speed maneuvers. The gravitational anomaly had given them the edge they needed, but Liam knew that wouldn't last long. The other competitors were just as capable, and their next obstacle was far more dangerous than anything they'd faced so far. The weapons zone. This area of the racecourse was a deadly labyrinth filled with mines, energy traps, and lethal weapons designed to cripple the ships of those foolish enough to venture into its depths. The Galactic Race was more than a contest of speed. It was a test of wits and survival. And Liam knew the true battle wasn't just with the course or the obstacles. It was with the competitors themselves. Captain, incoming, Ava's voice cut through the tension. Jex is on our tail, and Vrock isn't far behind. We've got a few minutes before the weapons zone hits. Liam's knuckles whitened as he gripped the control panel. Behind him, Jex Zephron's Vaporium 9 was closing in fast, her sleek silver ship cutting through space with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. The Vaporium 9 had already proven itself to be one of the fastest ships in the galaxy, and Jex's calculations were nearly flawless. But that wasn't the problem. Jex had something else in mind. We're not just racing against them, Ava. We're racing against their dirty tricks too, Liam said, his eyes narrowing. He could already feel it, the cold, calculating move Jex was likely preparing. The Vaporium 9 wasn't just fast. It was equipped with advanced weapons and energy manipulation systems. Jex wasn't above using underhanded tactics to secure her win. Get ready, Liam said, his voice steely. We need to stay one step ahead. The Striker 7 moved into the next phase of the course, the weapons zone. Mines, plasma shields, and explosive traps began to flicker on their sensors. Liam knew this was where the game would get truly deadly. The competitors wouldn't hesitate to use everything they had to sabotage each other, and Jex was no exception. Before Liam could react, a burst of energy shot across the path ahead. It was Jex. She'd deployed an energy pulse that warped the surrounding space, distorting it into a dangerous field of electric spikes. The pulse was designed to disable any ship that came too close, scrambling the electronics and leaving the ship vulnerable to further attacks. Dodge it, Liam shouted, throwing the Striker 7 into a sharp turn. The ship's engines roared as it banked hard, narrowly avoiding the deadly pulse. The ship's shields flared brightly, absorbing the shock, but the sudden force pushed Liam and his crew back into their seats. We're not in the clear yet, Ava warned. We need to get out of here fast. Those pulses are becoming more frequent. If they hit us again, we're done. Liam gritted his teeth, his hands dancing over the control panel. The Striker 7 was designed for agility, but even the fastest ship could only avoid so many attacks before it became too damaged to continue. Jex wasn't playing fair, and the Vaporeum 9 was more than capable of luring them into traps. We need to turn the tables, Liam muttered. He quickly activated the ship's stealth cloak. Ava, prepare the drones. The Striker 7 flickered as the cloaking device engaged, and for a brief moment the ship disappeared from the sensors of everyone behind them. They would be invisible to Jex's energy pulses, but it wouldn't last long. Drones deployed, Captain, Ava said, her fingers moving quickly to control the small, stealthy units. They'll act as decoys. It'll give us time to move through the mines ahead. The Striker 7 moved deeper into the weapons zone. Mines floated in erratic paths, blinking red as they powered up. The drones shot ahead, drawing the attention of the automated defense systems and the mines. A series of explosions erupted in the distance, but none of them hit the Striker 7. Behind them, Jex's Vaporeum 9 was forced to slow down, momentarily distracted by the drones. But it wasn't just Jex they had to worry about. Vrock's on the move, Ava said, voice tight with urgency. His ship's firing. Liam looked up to see Vrock Callan's Annihilator charging toward them. Vrock wasn't concerned with subtlety or tricks. He was a warrior, ruthless and relentless. He fired a salvo of ion cannon blasts aimed directly at the Striker 7. The shockwaves from the energy blasts rippled through space, and debris flew in every direction. Liam jerked the Striker 7 to the left, narrowly avoiding the blast. The ion cannon's energy shot past them, hitting one of the nearby mines and setting off a massive explosion. A wave of energy slammed into the Striker 7, sending the ship spiraling out of control for a split second. "Steady, steady," Liam shouted, trying to regain control. His crew held on as the ship fought against the forces, pushing it off course. "We can't keep taking hits like this," Ava said. "Shields are down to 30%. The next blast might take us out." Liam's eyes locked onto the path ahead. They were approaching a deadly section of the course, a sector filled with gravity distortions and weaponized barriers. He had one chance to get through it unscathed, but that meant making a difficult choice. "Take us into the distortion field," Liam said, his voice calm. "We need to lose Vrock." Ava's eyes widened. "The distortion field? It's unstable. We could get torn apart." "We don't have a choice," Liam replied. "The only way to escape is to lose them in the chaos." He pushed the Striker 7 into the gravitational anomaly, the ship shuddering as it was sucked into the distorted space. The barriers around them began to pulse with dangerous energy, while the gravitic shifts twisted time and space, making it almost impossible to navigate. Behind them, Vrock followed, his Annihilator charging forward with all its might, the massive warship unable to avoid the distortions as the gravitational forces began to warp its trajectory. For a brief moment, Liam thought they might have escaped, but then the sensors began to flicker. Jex had recovered, and her Vaporeum 9 was closing in on their position once again. "This isn't over," Ava said, her voice filled with determination. "We can do this. We just have to push through." Liam nodded. The Striker 7 surged forward, its engines pushing harder, trying to break free from the chaotic space-time rift they had plunged into. The race was far from over, and with the weapons, tricks, and traps of their enemies closing in, the true fight had just begun. The Striker 7 blasted through the treacherous weapons zone, its shields flickering under the intense barrage of energy pulses and mines. Liam Foster's grip on the controls tightened as the ship tore through the chaotic space ahead. Every turn, every maneuver had to be calculated with razor precision. One misstep, and they'd be obliterated by the traps laid out by their competitors. Behind them, Vrock Callan's Annihilator was a relentless juggernaut. Its massive form sliced through the void, firing ion blasts with precision and brutality. Every shot from Vrock's ship seemed to shake the very foundation of space, sending shockwaves that rattled Striker 7. Jex Zephron, too, wasn't far behind. Her ship, Vaporeum 9, was a sleek, agile predator, darting around the obstacles with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. But even Jex's precision couldn't guarantee her safety in this zone. The The weapons here were designed to tear apart even the fastest and most well-prepared ships, and she knew it. Liam's thoughts raced as he adjusted the ship's trajectory. They had to get through the weapons zone first if they were to make it to the final leg of the race. The final stretch wasn't just about speed. It was about surviving long enough to reach the core of energy. "We're almost there." Ava's voice crackled over the comms, filled with urgency. "Just a few more hurdles." Liam nodded grimly. He could see it now. The next sector of the race was just ahead. A large, pulsating energy field blocked the path. This was no ordinary barrier. It was a deadly electromagnetic field, capable of frying the ship's systems in seconds if they didn't maneuver correctly. "Steady," Liam murmured, his eyes fixed on the swirling energy field ahead. He activated the ship's advanced shielding system to deflect the electromagnetic waves. The Striker 7 surged forward, narrowly avoiding a direct hit from the field. Sparks flew as the shields absorbed the initial impact, but they held strong. Then came the unexpected. Out of nowhere, a massive chunk of debris, a remnant of an ancient battle, shot across their path. It was too large to dodge without risking a collision, and too dense to break through with the ship's energy weapons. Liam's mind raced. He had to act fast. "Brace for impact," Liam shouted, jerking the controls to the side. The Striker 7 scraped against the debris, sending tremors through the hull. The impact rattled the crew, but the ship held together. Liam gritted his teeth, the ship's systems groaning under the pressure. "Damage report," he called out. "Minor structural damage," Ava responded quickly. "Hull integrity at 80%, shields down to 40%. But we're still operational." Liam exhaled in relief, but the relief didn't last. The worst was yet to come. The race was nearing its climax, and the path ahead would push them to their limits. But what concerned Liam more than the obstacles was the increasing presence of other racers. Vrock's ship, Annihilator, had now closed the distance, and Jex's Vaporium 9 was practically on their tail. The final stretch of the course was drawing near, and Liam knew that only one of them could reach the core of energy first. With each passing second, the tension between the competitors grew thicker. "Vrock's getting too close," Ava said, monitoring the tracking systems. "He's locking onto us. We need to create some distance." Liam's mind whirled. The only way to break free from Vrock's pursuit was to use the weapons zone to their advantage. They had to turn this race into a battle of strategy, not just speed. "Deploy the anti-gravity pulse," Liam said firmly. The anti-gravity pulse was a highly experimental device they had installed on the Striker 7, designed to disrupt the gravitational fields around them, creating a temporary blind spot in their wake. It was a risky maneuver. They had never tested it in such high-stakes conditions, but it was their best shot. Ava quickly activated the device, and for a brief moment, the ship felt weightless. The Striker 7 surged forward, leaving a trail of warped space behind them. Vrock's Annihilator stumbled slightly as the pulse threw off its targeting system, but it wasn't enough to stop the relentless warship. "We've got a window," Liam said, seizing the opportunity. He pushed the Striker 7 to its maximum speed, weaving between the remaining obstacles in their path. But then came the most unexpected twist of all. Shertak's ship, the Phase Strider, appeared out of nowhere. The Zyphar's ability to phase through space and time had always been a mystery, but now Shertak was using it in the most dangerous way possible. His ship materialized directly in front of the Striker 7, phasing in and out of existence like a ghost. Liam slammed on the brakes, barely avoiding a collision. "Damn it!" Liam cursed, his fingers flying over the controls. "We've got no time to lose," Ava shouted. "We need to get past him or we'll be stuck here." Liam didn't hesitate. With a flick of his wrist, he activated the ship's emergency thrusters, sending the Striker 7 into an explosive burst of speed. The ship hurtled forward, passing right through the phasing anomaly that had momentarily thrown them off course. "Go, go, go!" Liam yelled as they tore through the space-time distortion. Behind them, Shertak's ship flickered and vanished once more. Liam and his crew didn't have time to celebrate. They were now in the final stretch of the race, and ahead of them, the core of energy was waiting. The Striker 7 had taken every risk, overcome every obstacle, and now they had one final chance to prove that humanity wasn't just a fluke. It was a force to be reckoned with. But they weren't the only ones determined to win. As the finish line loomed ahead, The tension was palpable. The race was almost over, and in these final moments, anything could happen. Liam's hands were steady on the controls, but his heart pounded in his chest. He could feel it. The final test was upon them. This wasn't just a race, it was a battle for survival, for power, and for humanity's future in the galaxy. And in that moment, as the Striker 7 tore toward the finish line, Liam knew that their victory was far from guaranteed. The Striker 7 blasted through the final leg of the race course, its engines roaring as it cut through space, narrowly avoiding the gravitational anomalies and explosive barriers that littered the path ahead. The race had become more than just a contest of speed. It was now a brutal test of endurance, wit, and the willingness to fight through any obstacle standing in their way. With every passing moment, Liam Foster and his crew found themselves pushed to their absolute limits. The finish line was within reach, but the dangers were far from over. Ahead lay the most treacherous stretch of the course, the Stellar Bridge, a narrow, shifting corridor made of pure cosmic energy. Only the most skilled pilots could navigate it, and even they would be at risk of being pulled into the void if they made a single mistake. Liam's heart raced as he gripped the controls. He could see Jex Zephron's Vaporium 9 in the distance, still close behind them, her sleek silver ship darting through space with surgical precision. But it wasn't just her. Vrock Callan's Annihilator was also closing in, its massive guns ready to tear through anything that got in its way. And Shurtok, well, his Phase Strider could appear out of nowhere, distorting space and time with every move. The final stretch of the race had become a battlefield. Jex is catching up, Ava said, her voice filled with tension as she monitored the ship's systems. And Vrock's not far behind either. We can't afford to slow down now. Liam nodded. He had no intention of slowing down. This was it, the final test of everything they had fought for. They had to navigate the Stellar Bridge without making a single mistake. One wrong move, and they could be obliterated by the chaotic energy pulses and quantum rifts that lay ahead. "Hold on tight," Liam said, his voice calm but filled with resolve. "This is going to be the hardest part." With a flick of his wrist, he activated the ship's quantum stabilizers, ensuring they could make it through the gravitational shifts ahead. The Striker 7 surged forward into the Stellar Bridge, the walls of the energy corridor flashing with pulses of light. The ship's systems hummed as they adjusted to the shifting gravity, bending the laws of physics as they entered the heart of the bridge. Liam's eyes flicked across the controls, every movement now a calculated risk. The corridor ahead was narrow, filled with shimmering energy beams that threatened to rip the ship apart with a single touch. The Striker 7 weaved and dipped, narrowly avoiding the deadly beams as they swirled and shifted in unpredictable patterns. "Watch those energy pulses," Ava shouted, her voice rising with urgency. "They'll tear through our shields." Liam could hear the crackling of the energy beams as they sliced through space, their paths crossing dangerously close to the Striker 7. But Liam's focus was razor sharp. He had trained for this moment, and every fiber of his being was attuned to the ship's every movement. "We can't let Jex get ahead," Liam muttered, pushing the throttle forward. The Vaporium 9 was just behind them, Jex's ship maneuvering with an almost supernatural precision, slipping between the energy beams like a shadow. But she was closing the gap. Liam could feel it in the air. The tension was palpable. Every ship in the race was pushing forward with everything they had, but only one could emerge victorious. Vrock's Annihilator loomed behind them like a thundercloud. The massive warship fired once again, sending blasts of energy toward the Striker 7. The shockwaves from the blasts rocked the ship, but Liam gritted his teeth, focusing on the narrow path ahead. There was no time to retaliate, just survive. "Jex's ship is coming up fast," Ava reported. "She's closing in. We need to pull ahead now." Liam's eyes narrowed. They were so close. The finish line was just ahead, but Jex was nearly upon them. In a split-second decision, Liam activated the Striker 7's emergency thrusters, sending the ship into a burst of speed. The ship lurched forward, narrowly avoiding a cluster of energy pulses. The Stellar Bridge was starting to twist and warp, the space around them distorting like a living thing. Behind them, Jex's Vaporium 9 was just a few meters away. She was good, probably the best pilot Liam had ever faced, but he wasn't about to let her win. Not after everything they had been through. The final stretch was a blur. Time seemed to slow as the Striker 7 darted through the last corridor of the stellar bridge, its engines screaming with power. The finish line loomed in front of them, a glowing point of light that promised victory. But just as they were about to cross it, a blinding flash of light erupted from the Phase Strider, Shertok's ship, appearing out of nowhere. The ship phased in and out of reality, distorting space around it, creating a ripple that threatened to destabilize everything. For a brief moment, the Striker 7 seemed to flicker, its trajectory thrown off by the distortion. Liam's heart skipped a beat. They couldn't afford to lose focus now. "Steady!" Liam shouted, forcing himself to remain calm. He slammed the Striker 7 forward, hitting the final burst of speed. The ship surged ahead, its thrusters firing with a final back explosive push. And then, in a flash, they were through. The finish line was crossed. The Striker 7 roared as it shot past the final energy barrier, the core of energy waiting just beyond it. They had done it. They had won. Liam let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. The crew cheered, their victory hard-earned, but Liam's mind didn't rest on the celebration. He knew this was just the beginning. They had won the race, but the true challenge was yet to come. The core of energy was now in their hands, but so were the eyes of every powerful faction in the galaxy. The race may have ended, but the war for humanity's place in the universe had only just begun. Liam's voice was steady, but his gaze was sharp. "We've won today, but this isn't over. Not by a long shot." The Striker 7 slowed to a crawl, its engines purring as it glided through the cosmic silence. The roar of the race had faded, but the adrenaline still coursed through Liam's veins. He couldn't believe it. They had done it. They had won the core of energy. The crew was cheering, their voices filled with relief and triumph. Ava, Caleb, Tara, and Eli all exchanged high fives and shouted in excitement, the months of hard work and sacrifice finally paying off. The core of energy, a glowing orb of pure power, hovered just beyond the cockpit window, waiting to be claimed. But for Liam, the celebration felt muted. The moment of victory had come, but the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on his shoulders. They had won the race, but they had no idea what the true consequences would be. He stared out into the abyss of space, the stars twinkling like distant memories. Earth had claimed its place in the galaxy, no longer an insignificant speck on the map, but at what cost? The High Galactic Council had seen humanity's potential, and that potential had made them a target. They weren't the only ones watching. "Captain," Ava's voice broke through his thoughts. She was standing by the communications console, her brow furrowed with concern. "We've got a transmission coming in." Liam's stomach twisted. The transmission could be from the Council, or worse, from one of their many enemies. He didn't expect good news. "Put it through," Liam said, his voice calm but with an edge of uncertainty. The screen flickered to life, revealing a stern, grizzled face. It was Admiral Sloan, the commander of Earth's fleet, his expression as stoic as ever. "Liam," Sloan said, his voice steady but grave, "congratulations on your victory. You've made Earth proud, but this is only the beginning." Liam felt a chill run through him. "What's going on, Admiral?" "The core of energy," Sloan paused, his expression darkening. "It's not just a power source, it's a symbol, and it's attracted the wrong kind of attention." Liam's mind raced. "What do you mean?" "We've won. The race is over." "No," Sloan interrupted, his voice hardening. "The race may be over, but the war has just begun. Several factions, including the Nyrak and Zepharans, have formed a coalition. They've been watching you, Liam. They believe humanity's victory wasn't just a fluke. They believe it's a signal, a sign that humanity poses a threat." Liam's stomach dropped. "What are they going to do?" "They're already mobilizing," Sloan said, his eyes narrowing. "The Nyrak are gathering their fleets, and the Zepharans are preparing to sabotage humanity's technological progress. They believe that Earth's rise to power will disrupt the balance of the galaxy, and they won't tolerate it." Liam felt a knot form in his chest. "So what now?" "You need to be ready," Sloan replied. "Your victory has made you a target. They'll come for you, for Earth, and for everything you've worked for. The war is just beginning." The transmission flickered off, and the screen returned to the cold emptiness of space. The crew was silent. The reality of what Liam had feared was finally hitting them. The Striker 7 had won the race, but that victory had painted a massive target on Earth's back. They had earned the core of energy, but in doing so, they had made enemies of some of the most powerful factions in the galaxy. "Admiral's right," Liam said quietly, turning back to his crew. "We've made a name for ourselves, but now we have to prepare for what's coming." Ava stepped forward, her expression grim but determined. "What's our plan, Captain?" Liam exhaled slowly. "We need to fortify our position. We need to gather more intelligence, form alliances where we can, and make sure we're ready for what's coming. The Nyrok and Zapharans won't stop until they've crushed us, but we're not backing down." "We've made it this far," Caleb said, his voice filled with resolve. "We can't stop now." Liam nodded. "Exactly. We've come too far to let this end here." As the crew gathered around the briefing table, Liam's mind was already working. Earth had earned its place in the galaxy, but now it had to fight for its survival. The galaxy was a far more dangerous place than they had ever realized, and victory in one race had only made humanity a bigger target. But they weren't backing down. Not now. Not ever. "We've won this battle," Liam said, his voice steady and strong, "but we've got a war ahead of us, and we're going to fight every step of the way." As the crew prepared for the next steps, the Striker 7 drifted through the vastness of space, the core of energy glowing brightly in the distance. The race was over, but the real struggle for humanity's future had just begun, and they would be ready. And with that, humanity's greatest challenge is only just beginning. The core of energy is now in their hands, but so are the eyes of every powerful faction in the galaxy. The fight for Earth's place in the universe is far from over. Thank you for joining us on this thrilling adventure. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you won't miss any of our future content. Stay tuned for more exciting tales from alien watchers. Keep watching the stars.